Hey class, I'm at the beginning of 3.8. This is page, I don't know what page, but the beginning of the 3.8 lesson where the problem situation is. The goal is to be able to solve more equations. So this is an extension of 3.6, but now we have also our proportion tool in our toolbox. So make sure you remember to keep undoing operations. Keep the balance in the equation. If you do something to one side, do it to the other. Keep it equal. Some of the equations we solve will need some simplifying first, some cleaning up, so it'll be messier in this section. One of the other new goals is that we'll rearrange an equation, not necessarily to find the value of a variable, but to just isolate that letter instead of a different letter in the equation. And we'll see what happens when there's a square or a cube in an equation and you're trying to solve for that letter. So I'm going to jump down to number 1. Paula has 2 options for going to school. She can carpool with a friend or take the bus. Her friend estimates that driving will cost 22 cents a mile for gas. I like to make notes as I go, so I'm going to do that. I'll just do it over here. 22 cents per mile is gas. And then 8.2 cents a mile. So 8.2, that per mile is maintenance. And then what else do I know? Additionally, there's a $25 parking fee per week. And that's at the college, so she has to pay to park. That's a pretty expensive one, right? Where at CCC, if you drive there instead of just stay at home, you pay much cheaper for a whole year even. If Paula carpools, she would pay half of these costs. The cost of the carpool can be modeled by the following equation, where C is the cost of carpooling per week and M is the total miles driven to school each week. So C, remember, represents the cost of carpooling. So there's her equation. She's already built it. So we're going to look at that and just kind of think about in part A, like, did she build it right? Do we trust it? What does everything mean? So the half, there's a half in the equation, right? I think that's because she needs to take half of her taking the bus amount, right? Well, not the bus, but if she carpools with a friend or takes the bus. Sorry, I reread that. I read that wrong. So the cost of her driving, I'll say alone cost, right? If she drives alone, then that's an amount. And if we take the cost of her carpool, that equals half of her driving alone cost. So that parenthesis amount, whatever's in the parentheses up there, should be the total cost if she didn't carpool, right? So let's analyze that. It says explain what each term inside the parentheses represents. So the 0.082, that sounds like 8.2, but it's in dollars, right? 8.2 cents is the same as, if you change it to dollars, it would be 0.082. And if you take that per mile times the number of miles, then that should be, maybe I'll put this down here now, the dollar amount, notice the miles would cancel out, and that will be the dollar amount that she spends on her maintenance, right? I didn't put a number there because it depends on how many miles she goes, right? But multiplying those gives you rid of the miles. All right, and that's what M is, right? So I was thinking 0.082 times M miles gives me my dollar amount that I would spend on maintenance. The 0.22 is 22 cents, but written as dollar amount. 0.22 is 22 cents if we write it in dollars. That's per mile, but times the number of miles she drives would be her dollar amount spent on gas. Okay, and then $25 is the fee. Right, so all of those seem to make sense. If we add then her maintenance, her gas price, and her fee, we would have her total driving alone cost. And then if you multiply that by a half, that would be equivalent to dividing it by 2. You'll get her carpool cost. So that formula looks right. Let's go beyond that. What's the total, what's the total weekly carpooling cost if the commute to school is 7 miles each way? So miles, so M is miles, right? If it's 7 miles each way, and she goes to school 3 times a week, then I'm wondering how many miles does she drive in a week? Because it says to do the weekly carpooling cost. Now wait a second, I better go back. Okay, so remember that C, this calculation was supposed to be all for a week, right? Everything was what she does in a week. And as long as the M is the miles that she drives in a week, then we'll be good to go. So how many is that? So she does 7 miles each way. So I would think 14 miles there and back, right? Each day. And she doesn't go every day, so she goes, I'm going to put that as per day. And then if I multiply by 3 days a week, then 42 miles would be how many she drives in a week, right? So it looks like 42. So don't be afraid to let those units still help you. Okay, I can see the days would cancel out. It'd be good to write these as fraction units. You can do that in your paper. Okay, now I can use my formula, because if I use the formula C equals 1/2, and then I put in 0.082 times 42, that's the miles in a week, and then I add 0.22 times the miles in a week, and then I add my fee of $25, then I should have for her total. By the way, now that we're getting used to a lot of formulas and equations, keep the equation as it is. So instead of just coming over here and calculating all or parts of this, just drop right underneath and keep it a C equals amount. It will be helpful for the rest of everything. Anytime really you handle an equation, that's a good habit. So I'm going to do 0.082 times 42, and that's 3.444. And I'm going to add on the price of gas for the week. That's 42 times 0.22. That's $9.24. And then I'm going to add $25 to that. So if I find the total inside, 924 plus 3.444. I'm not going to bother to round yet. I'll do that at the end. And then add the 25. 37,684 is how much it would cost, 1,000. It would be how much it would cost if she didn't carpool. But it said if she carpools, she pays half that. So if I take half of that, so I could do that divided by 2, or I could do 0.5 times that. It's the same thing. So get used to how flexible different numbers are and how to work with them. 18,842. I get 18,842. Now this is a cost, so I would think of that it's probably in dollars. So it costs Paula $18 a week, $18.84. Typically to commute via carpool. Okay? So that was just really plugging a number into an equation and finding it. Let's see what else we could try. A weekly bus pass cost $22. How many total miles? Ooh, okay. So this time I'm looking for miles. Must Paula commute to school each week for the carpool to cost to be equal to the bus pass? So the carpool cost is what I called C. And so this time I'm going to just steal that, I think. This time I just want my C to be equivalent to what the bus pass would cost. So I could just plug a 22 in where my C was, and then the goal is to know what is M. So I'm just thinking about this first question here, right? How many miles? So if I have the equation, I don't have to try to figure this out in my head. I can just solve the equation. So we have some choices now. So I would wonder, what should I do about this half? One of the things that I notice is I could distribute it. I could multiply through on this side by the 1/2. Another thing I notice is a 2 in the denominator. So if I multiply both sides by 2, I could have no more fraction on that side. So that might be nice. Maybe I'll do that. So I'm going to take both sides and multiply by 2. So we have options. Like the first thing I said isn't wrong. There's just options. And so it's just being comfortable. Oh, I put a really big 2. That's okay. So on this side now I have 44. And the 2 here times the half is now just 1. And I still have inside my 0.882 M plus 0.22 M plus 25. Now, the parentheses aren't really needed because 1 times anything is the same thing. So I can just get rid of those. And I would have gotten rid of them if I distributed the half as well. That's pretty big. There we go. That's better. Now, on this side, I notice I have some M's in more than one place. So if they're the same kind of term, there's no exponent or anything, I could just add those together. So 22 hundredths plus 0.082 should be 302, I believe. Hopefully you're checking. And so now I have an equation where there's only one M in one place. So now I can get M alone, right? So I had to do some cleanup this time to get it going. So what am I going to do? I'm going to subtract 25 on both sides because that will help me undo the addition. And I need to then, whoops, what is that? 19. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 0.302, sorry. And that's 19 divided by 0.302, which is 62.9. I'm going to round it to the nearest tenth because it's how many miles per week she would drive. So if she drives about 62.9 miles in a week, and carpools, her cost of driving